Chapter 26 of Sisters. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This reading by Lucy Burgoyne. Sisters by Ada Cambridge. Chapter 26. The first letter signed, Deborah Dalzell, was addressed, strange to say, to Guthrie Carey, not to the commander of the SS Aphrodite, via his shipping office, but to Guthrie Carey, Esquire, Wellwood Hall, Norfolk. For a great change had taken place in the circumstances of her old friend. One day, a few years earlier, he had been called from the sea, somewhere off the coast of South America, to take his place as a landowner and land dweller amongst the great squires of England. Quite the very last thing he could have anticipated in his wildest dreams. 3 sons of the reigning Carey had been capsized in a gale while out yachting. The reigning Carey, on hearing of the catastrophe, had been seized with a fit that proved fatal in a few hours. His eldest son's wife, as an effect of the same shock, had given birth to a stillborn male infant, the sole grandson. One brother had died childless, another leaving daughters only. The third, Guthrie's father, was also dead. Thus the unexpected happened, as it has a way of doing in this world, and the twopenny halfpenny mate of old Redford days had become the head of a county family. His experiences had trained him for the change. He took it soberly, without losing his head. A bristling array of blood enemies were gradually transformed into a circle of respectful friends. Some of them assisted him to settle himself in his unfamiliar seat, to teach him the duties of his high station. He was teachable, but independent, not shutting his eyes and opening his mouth to swallow all the old world creeds they chose to put into it, but studying every branch of the science of landlordism in the light of his own intelligence and beliefs. When he had fairly mastered the situation, he married one of his cousins. He was in his robust middle age, which comes so much later to men than to women. She was well on in her 30s, a comely, sensible, well-bred young lady, and a most excellent coadjutor to a squire new to the business. "An eminently wise selection," said his brother squires, when the engagement was announced. The wedding was a great family function and county event. It meant that the Careys, instead of being split up and scattered to the winds, remained together, united in amity. It meant that the dignity of the old house was to be kept up. When, a year later, Wellwood rang bells and lit bonfires in honour of a son and heir, nothing seemed wanting to confirm the general impression that our Guthrie was not only a wise but a singularly fortunate man. It was an impression that Guthrie shared, from the point of view that he had now reached in life. He believed himself favoured beyond the common lot. He loved Wellwood, full of the memorials of his ancient race. He enjoyed his settled and comfortable place therein, after the homeless roving of so many years, the feel of solid land under his feet and under his life, for which every sailor pines, despite whatever spell the sea may lay on him. He was proud of his perfect-mannered wife, who was also his good friend and confidant. He was incredulously proud of his handsome boy, and the day of the young romance, of the great passion, of those sordid little fires which beckon to men whose nature craves for warmth and whose Yule is cold, that day was past. Love is one thing and marriage another, he had once said, without really meaning it, that he had spoken truer than he knew. Moreover, the shocking statement was not nearly so awful as it seemed. The very conditions of marriage life are fatal to love, as love is understood by the yet unmarried lovers, insanely sanguine, of human necessity, asking the impossible, and no blame to them, because they are made so; but no matter, that thing which comes afterwards, to the right-minded and well-intentioned, and which they don't think worth calling love, that sober, faithful, forbearing friendship, that mutual need which endures all the time, and is ever more deeply satisfied and satisfying instead of less, is not bad substitute. Yet how the world of imagination dominates the world of fact! How much fairer the unseen than the seen! How much more precious the good we have not than the good we have! In his private desk, in his private study, Guthrie kept, just as old Mr Pennycuick had kept his valentine, a faded, spotted, ochre-tinted photograph of poor little Lily, in the saucer bonnet with lace "brides" to it that she was married in; and when Wellwood was humming with shooting parties and the like, and its lady doing the honours of the house with all the forethought and devotion that she could bring to the task, the stout squire would be sitting in his sanctum under lock and key, gazing at the sweet girl face which had the luck to be dead and gone. Lily, in the retrospect of the faultless woman, the ideal wife and love's young dreaming one, "I have had my day," was the thought of his heart, as he looked across the gulf of strenuous, chequered, disappointing years to that idol of the far past which her pictured form brought back to him. "Whatever is lacking now, I have known the fulness of love and bliss, and there is such a thing as a perfect union between man and woman, rare as it may be." It will be remembered that he was married to her, actually, for a period not exceeding 5 weeks in all. And Deborah Pennycuick, who could have made such a magnificent lady of Wellwood, who was, in fact, asked to take the post before it was offered to the cousin, she came to spend Christmas under his roof, while still a spinster, on the tacit understanding that neither was a subject for nonsense any more. Deb and Mrs Carey were close friends. Deb was the godmother of the heir. The home-likeness of Wellwood was intensified by her intercourse, while there, with English Redford and the descendants of that brother with whom old Mr Pennycuick had been unable to hit it off, humdrum persons, whose attraction for her lay in their name and blood, and the fact that they could show her the arms and portraits of her ancestors, and the wainscoted room in which her father was born. It was to Wellwood that she went to be married. From the old home of the Careys she was driven to the old church of the Pennycuicks, full of mouldering monuments to a nearly vanished race. It was buried in its rural solitude, far from the railways and gossip mongers and newspaper reporters, and the wedding was as quiet could be. Guthrie was acting brother, and gave her away. He never, of course, disclosed the secret that was his and Francie's honest brother, as he longed to be; but perhaps, even had she known it, and her own austere chastity notwithstanding, she might have been broad-minded enough to judge him kindlier than is the wont of the sex which does not know all, and have still held him worthy to be to her the friend he was. As she knew him, she loved him sister-like, and turned to him naturally when she needed a brother's services. And so it was to him that she wrote first, at the end of the short wedding day journey, just to tell him that she and her bridegroom had arrived safely,